Welcome to Quantum Astrology with Julie Simmons. That's me. I'm delighted that you're here, and I hope this is the start of a long and interesting conversation. It certainly seems to me that the most interesting conversations of my life happen because of astrology. They aren't always about astrology, but astrology informs the way I think and talk, and it makes everything more interesting as far as I'm concerned. It seems to me that life is a mystery. From the minute we're born, growing older, dying at the end, it seems to me that it's a huge mystery, and we live on the surface of that mystery as much as we can, right? We go to the store and go to school and raise the kids and do our work, and we don't think about the mystery all the time, but then we do, because it's always there. It's always underlying everything. So astrology is probably the most ancient language that we have. Well, it is the most ancient language that we have that allows us to really see ourselves in relation to the great mystery. Because we have been looking at the sky, human beings have been looking up at the sky probably since we stood up. That was probably the first thing we noticed, was the sky. So the idea of astrology as a language that allows us to understand ourselves in relationship to the great mystery is old. I didn't make it up. So just imagine that you're back there with your ancient ancestors, and there's no such thing as light pollution, and it's nighttime, and there's no such thing as entertainment except for what we talk to each other about. And there you are, and you notice the sky, and it's beautiful because there's no light pollution, and there's no pollution at all. And you see the stars, and you notice that there aren't just stars that seem to be fixed in their position, but there's also stars that seem to wander through the sky. And those stars are the planets, and of course the sun and the moon. And so you look and you notice that there's the moon, like the biggest light of the night, and you see that the moon has the cycle. It takes 29 days to go around one cycle, and you notice that 29 days is the same as the cycle of a woman. So you say, well, it must be that the moon is mother. It must be that the moon is mother. And there you go, there's the Venus in the sky, just after the sun sets. It's the most beautiful, I'm sure everybody has seen it. It's the most beautiful diamond in the sky, and it just takes your breath away. So Venus becomes the goddess of beauty. What else? And then there's Mercury. Mercury is always close to the horizon. You can only see it when it's close to the horizon, and it's always, it flickers in and out because it's close to the horizon. So the Mercury came to represent the mind, because the mind is always flickering in and out. We all know that you can have a thought here and be off, thinking bananas just in a split second. So that's Mercury. And then, of course, there's Mars. Mars is the red planet, and when you see Mars up in the sky, it's got a reddish tint to it. And Mars, it rules over all things red. So Mars is blood, and of course blood spilled and infections, and so Mars comes to have to do with all sorts of things that are hot and fermenting, and it's a bit of a scary planet, Mars. And then of course there's Saturn. Saturn takes 29 years to make one cycle. It's the slowest moving planet that we can, it's the slowest moving object in the night sky that we can see with the naked eye. And so Saturn comes to represent all things that take time, like getting older or, learning through experience, all those kinds of things that take time. And then, of course, there's Jupiter. I think that my own thoughts about this is that Jupiter because Jupiter it's not as big and bright as Venus, but it's pretty big and bright. And it doesn't twinkle. The planets shine. The stars twinkle, but the planets shine. So Jupiter has a pretty strong shine, and my guess is that it's so close to Venus, but not quite as big, that originally Jupiter would have been the consort or the lover of Venus. But that eventually, as humans became more developed and we became more, let's say, patriarchal, then Jupiter had to have more status as to what, and so Jupiter became the king of the gods, or the ruler of the gods. And then, of course, let's not leave out the sun. The sun is the biggest light in the sky, and the sun is the heart. The sun represents the heart of us and the heart of our world and life, and the king, the ultimate light, the spirit, the great spirit. So this is where astrology comes from. This is how the conversation got started, because people could then look up and say the moon, and that's mother, and then what about my mother, and you get the picture. So this is the language that we're going to use to converse at Quantum Astrology. But as with most languages, we're not going to talk about the language so much as we're going to use the language, just like we've always done as humans. We're going to use the language to tell our stories and to sing our songs and to write our poetry, and most importantly, to understand our experience. And so what I'm hoping will happen here at Quantum Astrology is that you will send me through email your questions, along possibly with your birth data, and that this will give rise to topics and conversations that we can have using the language of astrology, but not always about astrology. And you can do that by emailing me at juliesimmons.ca, or you can just go to my website, juliesimmons.ca, and you'll find my contact information there. So I hope to be talking to you for a long time to come. Thanks for coming. Bye.